the quote that I really thought was really interesting and astonishing was the other day, Joe Avery told me that he couldn't do nothing with TJ anymore. That's a hard thing for a man to admit, because that means that he just gave up on TJ. He didn't even try to get him. He got his friend's mom fired from her dream job. He did everything, and he couldn't change him, which is really sad to me. Anyone have anything to say? Go on.
Yeah, so one of my questions was, who are TJ's friends and why are they like what they are? So TJ's kind of going one route while his friends are going another. So I feel his friends are like manipulating him and just want a puppet or someone, he's like entertainment to them, while he thinks they're his real friends. And he only, I think that if he had really good friends like the Logans, he would see through RW and Melvin, Sim. But I don't think, he's so desperate for a friend and someone he can like rely on and talk to that he'll like, any doubts he'll just ignore and push away because he can't have that. So that's my opinion.
I think that TJ, like what he's doing with RJ and Melvin, is that he's choosing to just look past whether the fact that they're using him or not, and because he has no friends and he might be lonely or going through other stuff, like the complications that he has at school with like the tests, so he feels like he needs someone, so he's choosing to just be friends with anyone who he can be friends with, even if they are using him.
I feel like he doesn't understand that the Logans are trying to do the good thing for him.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead, Dylan.
he's kind of like I guess he's like in denial, like he's cheating, like they're pretty much using him like his friends. They're not actually his friends, but he's like gone too far. You can't just lose his friend because he won't have anyone. But if you just like considered the Logans, like they could be his friend. Adi?
I don't think I personally don't think he's desperate for friends. I think he thinks that this is making him, quote unquote, cooler almost, because he's like, oh, you guys are just a bunch of people of my age, but I have these people who are older than me, and they're white, so that means like they're better friends than you. He's like, I kind of think that he's just kind of rebelling. He like he's not really, yeah, he's just kind of rebelling. He thinks this is better for him, and he doesn't care about what other people think because all that he knows is what he wants is the right thing, which really isn't true. Ian?
Well, I honestly feel like TJ's kind of dug himself into this hole that he can't really get out of. And he thinks he has, like Addie said, he thinks he has friends that are white and things like that. And he just kind of thinks he doesn't really realize that he's like in trouble. And he thinks he's just doing the right thing, but he's not. For him. Like he's cheating and that feels good to him because he's now getting a good score. But that's actually not the right thing. It's kind of almost like, it almost connects to how the whites were raised to think that blacks are like, or African Americans, that's a more polite way to say it, that they're bad and, not bad, but they should not be respected. That's kind of the way TJ, I feel like, is. So, cool.
Like, I kind of imagine TJ as if he went to like, if it was like the 21st century, he'd be that one kid who kind of starts hanging out with the wrong kids and starts doing drugs and stuff and drops out of college. He'd be that kind of kid, I think. And he's like, also, he can't make his own decisions. He's so moved by other people and he like tells on you for everything. He's almost immature or like scared and like just goes with the flow because he doesn't know like what else to do because he's like, yeah, but yeah, go on.
Well, I kind of think this book has a good resemblance to the shopping cart metaphor, where like when you go into a grocery store, you can take as many things as you want and put them in your cart, but in the end, you're gonna have to pay for them. So TJ doesn't really understand that. He just thinks, oh, if I can get it, I can take it. Everything's open to me. But in the end, karma, it's gonna come back at him. He's gonna have to pay for what he took. So, Ian?
Okay, like Alon said about the shopping cart metaphor, he doesn't really understand like what he's doing, and honestly, this might actually be his parents' fault, because it says they're just giving up on him, and he seems to be really I feel like he's miseducated, and he doesn't really know what he's doing. And if he were more educated, and he was raised probably properly, then he would have grown up to be someone that's very kind. But now he's just kind of growing up to become someone that's shopping at the Wallace store and things like that. Wow, everyone's very It's cold.
Okay. Even though I don't think we're supposed to, going back to what someone. Okay. So going back to what Addie said, so she was saying something similar to what I was gonna say. So the quote from the book, he said he has better friends than the Logans, and they give him things, and they treat him like a man, and they're white. It seems like he doesn't really know real friendship, because like he thinks, oh, they're giving me things, therefore they're treating me well, and like the Logans are just doing what's best for him, even though he doesn't know that. Andrew?
Well, I kind of agree with Cole earlier, how he said that like he didn't really know what he was doing, because when he does do this, it seems like he doesn't really like have any friends. Like there's like just because like he has friends that are older, he thinks that that'll make him cooler. Though like the Logans don't really care about that. Like they're just making true friendship. Aaron?
Yeah, I think that TJ is being really selfish. Like earlier in the book, he let Stacy take the blame for having the cheating cards when all he was doing was trying to help TJ, and TJ just let him take the blame. And then in this chapter, when he got Miss Logan fired, he wasn't even sorry about it. Sure, he said it, but he would have done something. He would have gone to her and apologized, because they all knew it was TJ. I'm sure they told him that it was her dream job, and that it said their family's running low, like with the cornbread. They couldn't use as much because they needed that job for the money. And it was TJ's fault, and he doesn't even care. Maddie?
I'm gonna compare like TJ's relationship with The Sims to Lily and Jean and Cassie, because even though Cassie knew what she was gonna do, that she was just gonna like drop the books and fight, I guess. Like she had her whole plan, but TJ, like Lily and Jean was just using Cassie the entire time just to carry her books and to seem cooler, like she had some girl that was just gonna follow her around. Whereas that's basically what RJ and Melvin are doing to TJ, but he doesn't realize it. He likes being treated like that because he thinks that it's making him cooler. Or as Addie said, like he thinks that it's somehow bringing him up in society and that people are going to respect him more.
Well, I think TJ also doesn't understand, his kind of like personality is really lacking. He doesn't really have any definite aspects, and he fills it in with other things like going to the Wallace store and shady behavior in general. So, like the saying, without a will, there isn't a way. So, like, TJ doesn't really care about anything. He always finds the easy path, the worn path, the path that he can get anything from and just walk along easier, when really he should take a better path, a harder path, but it leads to something better, a greater. So, TJ just needs to understand and to learn before it's too late that if you ever want to accomplish something, especially like from his lower status because people don't treat him very well, in the white community because he's African American, and in the African American community because he's not a very good person in general. So he just has to find that out somehow. I don't know. He doesn't trust the Logans to do it, so. Dylan?
So this is sort of similar to the shopping cart metaphor you used, but TJ, he like lives in the moment. He doesn't care about his future, and he thinks best for him right then. But I can compare it sort of to The Giver and to like the white community. To like he's doing what he thinks is best for him, and it's like not entirely his fault. It's like his parents' fault. It's like how they taught him to grow up, but he's doing what he thinks is best. So he thinks that he's like fine in life, but he's really not. But he doesn't know that.
Alright, so I kind of feel that TJ is almost jealous of Logan's, because it said at the beginning, you know, with the coat situation where Stacey had a coat, so TJ told Stacey it looked bad, so TJ got the coat, and he was trying to get, when Jeremy gave Stacey the flute, I think it was, TJ was like, are you actually going to use that? Because you could give it to me because someone that was white blew on it. So TJ is clearly also trying to get the flute. And almost, I feel like he's almost like, he might even be working with the Wallaces or something. I don't know, that's really crazy. But I feel like he's just jealous of them. And maybe because he knows they have land, they have their own land, and he's purposely getting Mama's job taken away. Maybe almost as if that will make them lose their land, because he's just jealous of them, which is really awful of TJ, but that might be the case. Addie?
So I think that we've had a really good discussion on this, but I kind of want to move on because we've done a lot on this. I think we all understand that he's made bad decisions and stuff. Erin, I'm sorry, I really want to move on.
I think it's good timing to move on.
But I have a question. Here, let me pull it up so I don't say it wrong. So if you were a white person at this time, would you treat African Americans like differently than they do? Like, be honest. Like, if you would, like, remember, like, that they were raised to think this. Would you, like, do you think that you somehow would think differently? Madeline.
I don't know, like, exactly, because I don't live in that time period, and, like, I just respect, like, everyone, and, like, it doesn't matter to me their race, but I think, like, back then, if I was raised to think that, and my parents were enforcing that, and everyone around me knew that, and they thought that themselves, then I hate to say it, but I probably would not notice, I guess.
So does anybody think that, I think that's good. Does anybody think that they would do differently? Because if you do, I would like to hear your reason why. Erin, do you think you would?
So it kind of depends. If you grow up with a good influence like Jeremy Sims, then if he can, because how did he get the way he is, respecting them? Like in his family, are some of the worst people that are really racist. And everyone, he is nice. He comes over no matter what their family thinks, and he tries to be nice. So it all depends on the environment. If I was friends with Jeremy, it might change. So, cool.
So I was gonna think, Jeremy isn't like, he's not raised in a good environment. It's his dad, like, being so against the whites that is pushing him to be, like, the other way around, like, not racist to black people. Like, it's his dad being so racist that's making him not racist. Andrew?
So I think that, like, if I was back in that time, like, most African Americans, they know that, like, people are being racist and, like, it's not fair. Though, like, they're too afraid to stand up for that because, like, you would just be killed for that. Though, like, if, like, some whites, like, they probably noticed that, like, this isn't really fair. So, like, if you were a white back then you would probably, like, figure out that that wasn't fair for people to be treated like that.
Well, I think it's all kind of about your, not self-control, but something similar to that. Is, like Maddie said, the influence and how you are. So I think that in that time period, if I was raised to believe that African Americans were inferior to myself, then I would believe that. But, so I really think people like the lawyer, I forget his name, Mr. Jamison, I think, he must have had an influence when he was younger, or maybe just saw when he got older that it wasn't really fair, like Andrew said, to treat the African Americans inferiorly to the whites. So I think it just, there are so many variables of if you were raised in a really closed environment like Lily and Jean, then I think you would be more racist. If you weren't, if you're kind of like Jeremy, kind of living in a tree, not liking his family.
So when I was thinking about this, I was thinking that a lot of us, like, obviously want to say that they would have not been racist, but there's so many things, like, they obviously were going to be raised that African Americans were inferior to them, and even if they, with a small chance, didn't think that was true and thought they were equal, they couldn't say it. Like Andrew says, they probably would be, like, everyone would be against them if they said that they thought everyone was equal, even though there's not a chance that they even would think that. But yeah.
So, just a comparison, think about it. Like, the 5th graders make fun of the 4th graders, the 6th graders make fun of the 5th graders, the 7th graders make fun of the 6th graders, the 8th graders make fun of the 7th and 6th graders. It's how you were, like, all your friends influencing, like, oh, we did this last year, now they have to do it. I bet next year when the 6th graders have to do digital foundations,
They won't.
And I can run portfolios.
everyone here is going to be laughing at them that they have to do that. So it's how, like, it's the influence. So, Ian?
Yeah, as Aaron kind of said, if you think about it, how we like, kind of like tease, like make fun of the lower grade levels, we're not trying to be hurtful and things like that. So maybe that's how they felt back then. Maybe, I mean, honestly, when they burned people, they were probably trying to be hurtful. But when they were just like being racist and just talking about them badly, I don't think maybe they weren't. This is just a maybe. Maybe they weren't trying to hurt them, and it's just the way they've been raised. And like when they burn people, they're obviously trying to be hurtful because they've probably done something bad. But it's like, yeah, they might not actually be trying to be. Many of them, some of them probably are trying to be hurtful, but just the majority of the population might not be hurtful. It's just the way that they've been. That's the way they perceive it. Maddie?
I want to say that it's like a tradition, like, because we have to go through it in 6th grade. We had to write this entire portfolio and, like, have to do this. And next year we're going to be like, oh, you guys have to write your portfolio. And then the years after that, they'll say that to the 4th graders and the 3rd graders and so on. Like, it's kind of like a tradition. So it's going through, like, generations of families, I guess, in the book. Like, Mr. Sim's father probably was just as racist as he was, and he was raised like that, and now he's teaching his children what he was taught. Just like our parents like try to do that for us. Like if they learn something at their school that we don't know, then they'll teach us that, and we know that, and we apply it to our everyday life. So like just as we learn to like brush our teeth or like get dressed in the morning and like to go to school, like they're learning that these people are inferior and they're not, they're equals. Spencer?
Okay, I agree with Maddie, and she says that when she says that they're taught to act like this and treat the other people like this, but I sort of disagree with Ian about the that they're not trying to be hurtful.
Well, some of the people.
Well, some of the people, but they're the white people think of African Americans at this time. They think of them as inferior to them, and going back to what he was also saying, and everyone else pretty much, when we're teasing other younger grades, we're not thinking that they're inferior to us. We're just playing around, and we know them, sort of, but and we're not trying to be hurtful in any way, and we don't think of them as like, lesser than us. But in this book, they're, and in general, they think that they're inferior to the white people. Addie?
Thank you. So I was just kind of thinking, so I think it also helps the white people feel better about themselves. It just assures them, because I feel like, yeah, it's like, isn't it? Don't you all enjoy, like, if you're, let's say yesterday I was in strings rehearsal with Lancer, and not many people that I knew came. And so I was the youngest one there, and there was no other violas, nobody to kind of back me up. And so I kind of felt small. I kind of felt inferior. But when let's say we were in 5th grade and we weren't the little kids, we weren't new, we felt comfortable in our environment, we felt good because we were at the top. I feel like maybe the white people, they kind of just, it helps them feel good about themselves because they're at the top too.
Well, I think there's no question about it. When you're at the top, you feel better because you can just do more things, you have more possibilities, and that's like for better or for worse, because it's like the president, he has a lot of power, and he could do great things. Like he could change the government, like make stuff happen, get bills passed, healthcare, that sort of beneficial stuff. But he also could declare war on like one of our allies, like Canada. We could attack Canada, which would be a bad thing. So we have a lot of power, or the president does. So it's really how you use that power, and I think the white people in this book and in this time period, or in that time period, felt that they were better and that they really abused that power because their fathers abused that power, and their mother abused that power, and their grandmother.
I feel like that's a really good way to look at it.
Alright, so I feel like that probably a lot of the whites were just really insecure about like just where they were, because I know like now I'm trying to connect all the things to now and how we think now. Like when we probably tease someone, you probably feel insecure about yourself when most people tease others. So maybe the whites felt the same way. And going back to Alon's, when you have power, it's hard to turn down, at least for some people, on this back then, clearly. It was hard for them to turn down the power that they're given. Because if you're given a lot of power, like the ability, if you really want death to Canada, and you have the ability to declare war in Canada, you're probably going to do that, which that's just a metaphor that Alon kind of stated. So they have the power, and they're just, I feel like they are just kind of abusing the power, and when you have power, you want to use it. Addie.
It'll be really quick. I personally don't think they were insecure. I do think they were abusing power though, because they're at the top. I don't think they would be insecure. Like when we were in 5th grade, we weren't insecure about what people would think above us because there was nobody above us. So
Maybe insecure. Sorry, maybe. Let me try to clarify what I meant. But maybe insecure about kind of the African Americans and what they could do to them and what
Revolt.
they think about them. Kind of revolted.
Maybe
Yeah.
worried about a revolt. So
That's
they're
the kind of insecure. Yeah.
they want to keep them down. Okay, Erin.
Okay, I'm gonna change the subject again. So, what about the families that stood up even when they were threatened with the chain gang? I think that's the right thing. They still wanted to shop in Vicksburg no matter what. And Papa, Mr. Morrison, and Stacy risked their lives basically to keep away those horrible people from getting what they want. Maddie?
I'm going to compare this to something that I'm learning about in history, where St. Patrick is bringing Christianity to Ireland.
That's what I'm doing too.
So it's kind of random, but what part of what my research was is that he was kidnapped by pirates and sold as a slave, and all through that he kept his religion, and because he was born in a Roman Christian family, so he remained Christian. And when he was spreading it to Irish people were threatening to kill him, and even though they were threatening him, he kept his religion and he kept doing what he was doing until he had spread it to way more than half the population. And I think that's kind of what happened to racism. Obviously, we still have it today, but we're considered equals now. And just the African American race, they just kept persisting and they keep trying. And if they keep going, then they eventually we have equality now. You can see that the people that were trying hard enough got what they wanted.
But like what you said with Ireland, I think for Christianity, the half of the Ireland population that now modern day that didn't receive it, their ancestors didn't, they like Christianity would be everywhere in Ireland now, but it would be less like dense in terms of the people who were Christian in that side of Ireland that wasn't like the saint didn't come there.
We get back to the topic.
Yeah, and then so my comment is like in the South where slavery was more like there was more of it and more plantations and that sort of thing. I think old habits die hard, so there are like more racism there even now. So yeah, and then in the North, like I don't think anyone in this room is racist. I don't think anyone in this school is racist. Like, and not a lot of people in San Diego are racist, if any. So, yeah. It's like, but if you go to if you go to Mississippi, there are gonna probably be more people who are racist, just because of what went on there.
All right, I think you guys should give yourselves a round of applause because you did an excellent job. Nice work.